Are typical Germans angry, beer-drinking, Lederhosen-wearing Nazis? Let's find out! Hey Rabbits, it's Trixie, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that troubles me for a while now. The many clichés that exist all over the world about Germans. Since I am German, I decided to list many of them and give you my personal opinion on them. Some of them may have a little truth in them, but many others are just wrong. And I'm not meaning wrong like in, oops, well, happens, but more like in, fucking shit, how could you ever think that? German sounds angry. I have to admit that almost 2 years ago, I made this video. Schmetterling! But back then, I just started with YouTube and I didn't have a clue about anything yet. I meant this as a joke, but I didn't know yet that exaggeration doesn't equal more fun. So no, German doesn't typically sound like in that video.
Luftmatratze, Geschwindigkeitsbegrenzung, Kotze!
But actually pretty normal. Of course, we make these little breaks after every word, and our language has a lot of sh sounds and consonants, which I think is the reason for it being called aggressive. But that's bullcrap. In my opinion, every language has its edges and characteristic sounds, and something like aggression is not transported with words. It's attitude. Wenn ich jetzt also so spreche und in die Kamera brülle und meine Augen aufreiße, dann kommt das natürlich mega scheiß und aggressiv rüber. Wenn ich aber jetzt normal rede und euch freundlich anlächle, dann klingt Deutsch wie jede andere Sprache auch. Also, it highly depends on the region which kind of German you hear. We have many dialects that sound very different from each other, and many of them are way softer than the typical German, whatever the typical German may be that you know from movies or whatever. Try Franconian, for example. So German sounds angry? Bullshit. Germans are introverted and cold. This cliché is all about perspective. If I ask Eric, who comes from Venezuela, South America, then yes, Germans may seem a little bit cold and reserved, but only in comparison. This is because two very different cultures collide. Eric often wants to hug and kiss everyone, telling people that he just met at the bus stop, "Hey man, what's up? Let's go have a beer." He is really warm and social. And believe it or not, many Germans are exactly like him too. It depends a lot on which region you come from, how old you are, and how you grew up. However, I would carefully say that many Germans are indeed calm and a bit distant. But not in a bad way though. More in a cautious, modest, humble, respectful, let's get to know each other first kind of way. That doesn't mean that we all run around with grim faces and try not to talk to anyone. It's more that we value our privacy and the privacy of others. In my opinion, it's also because Germans think a lot. They love intelligent humor and to muse about complicated, profound matters. They carefully sort their thoughts before they start talking. They don't want to bother each other. At least this is what applies to me, while other people from other countries may be a little bit more open and straightforward. But this doesn't only apply to Germans. I heard this about many other countries as well. For example, Scandinavia or parts of America, or what about Japan? Of course, both approaches have their up and downsides, but I think that this is the origin of the impression of us Germans being cold. But in the end, there is no typical German when it comes to social behavior. Like every other culture as well, we have a broad variety of different attitudes reaching from one extreme to another. All in all, okay, the cliché is not a total hoax, but it's not completely true either. Germans are introverted and distant, kinda, but it matters who you compare them with, and not in a bad way, more in a thinkative and respectful way. Germans are always punctual, organized, and structured. Again, there's every possible kind of German. This one friend that never makes it in time, never tidies up, never thinks about tomorrow, and then the super organized, always one step ahead, "It's 9:02, why are you 2 minutes late, you slop?" kind of person. The average is somewhere in the middle, but I think I would agree more to the organized side. The importance of keeping your stuff together and arriving in time is something that German children learn really early in school. When I went to school, I got marks for how tidy and structured my folders were, and sometimes you were told to do your homework again if the sheet looked too messy. Arriving late got you a sad smiley next to your name in the class book. So I would say that we are raised with the rule that being structured is polite, saves time, and avoids problems. And since we have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy, you just gave birth? You have 10 days to come to the civil registry office. Here is our bill. You have 8 days for the money to be transferred. Oh, you adopted a dog? Registration, microchip, 28 euros, dog tax. We are kind of forced to learn to live with deadlines and have important dates and tasks in mind. In exchange, we get helpful insurances, security, efficiency, and many benefits from the government. But all I just said doesn't mean that everyone plans 2 years ahead and is never late for anything, even though we take these things seriously and are maybe not the most spontaneous people on this earth. As I said in the part about our social behavior, we care a lot about respect, and not letting someone wait in the rain for 20 minutes is respectful. And the point about being organized comes down to the very same thing. If you know how your day is scheduled, it's easier to make plans with others without being forced to cancel or postpone the date later because you forgot about something else. In my opinion, this respect and try not to bother other people too much attitude really is a thing and the explanation for many aspects of our culture. So yeah, we are punctual, organized and structured, but of course not all of us, and the ones who are in a healthy and efficient way. Germans have many different kinds of beer, and they drink it a lot. In Germany, we have a lot of different beer kinds. That is definitely a matter of fact. If you go to a supermarket, there's a separate section for beer. It's like a beer museum, and you can just browse around and decide what you want to try today. And also, yes, many Germans, including me, love to drink it. However, we don't drink beer like it's water. That would mean that we're all alcoholics. But there's something called the Feierabendbier, which would mean like evening beer or after work beer. And I think this describes the relationship between Germans and beer pretty well. A sparkly, refreshing reward after a long day. Not necessarily every day, of course, but you know, from time to time. And of course, plenty of it on the Oktoberfest. So yeah. This actually applies to many of us, but of course not to all of us, and we're not alcoholics. It's like the French with their wine. Germans eat sausages, sauerkraut, and potatoes. It definitely is true that Germany offers many kinds of sausages. Bratwurst, Bockwurst, Weißwurst, Currywurst, Zungenwurst, Blutwurst, Gesichtswurst, many, as I said. And currywurst and bratwurst are definitely things that we eat a lot. Apart from that, I would say that it really differs from region to region how traditional Germans like their food. But in general, I would say that we eat almost everything. Italian food is my personal favorite, but we also enjoy fast food, Indian food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Turkish food, you name it. So the traditional food may be sausages, sauerkraut and potatoes, but the typical German food, especially for younger generations, is more like pizza, pasta, burgers, salad, sushi, whatsoever. I personally don't even like traditional German food so much. I love mushy, saucy food, many taste sensations that I can mix together in my mouth, and not really that. Germans only eat sausages, sauerkraut and potatoes? Nope. We do have these dishes, but we eat many other things as well. Germans don't speak English or only with a really strong accent. Especially younger generations nowadays have a really good knowledge of English. Many of them speak English fluently. It's true that you cannot go out and immediately assume that every single German knows English and you can have a conversation with him or her. But many people at least know English well enough to communicate the most necessary matters, even older people. I feel during the last 10 years a lot has changed concerning this topic. Germany is a modern country. Diversity and language skills got more value. More and more international companies are founded and school education is improving. Even though I remember that I had a bunch of horrible English teachers when I went to school, a new generation of good teachers will hopefully solve this problem. And also due to the internet and globalization in general, we get more and deeper into contact with the English language. So all in all, this cliché is bullshit when it comes to younger generations, and at least an underestimation of our language skills when it comes to the older ones. Germans are all Nazis. No, of course not. There are very few stupid black sheep, there always are, everywhere, but apart from that, this is a disturbing and painful misinformation. Do you know how frustrating it is if something really horrible, shameful, and violent happened in your nation's history, and over 50 years later, people still connect these happenings with you? Don't get me wrong, these things should never be denied or forgotten, but it's time to see that this is Germany's past, and Germany has come a long way since then. Our nation changed to, I'm almost tempted to say, the opposite of what we have been in times of the Third Reich and the Second World War. A modern, thoughtful, helpful, responsible, secure and tolerant society that itself hates this dark side about its past and tries to fight alongside other countries for a better future. You think that almost everyone knows by now that this Nazi cliché is not true? I'm not so sure. Not so long ago, two friends and I went to France and we stayed in a host family, spending most of the time with their sons that were about our age. One of the first questions that they asked us when we nicely sat together was, "Hey, what do you think about Hitler?" Like, this was a completely normal and casual thing to ask. What do you think about cats or Lord of the Rings or Hitler? What the f? And when I then look at some comments that I get on a regular basis here on YouTube, I can only shake my head. I mean, yes, that's just trolls, and many people know that this is just a cliché, but it's at least still an open wound that people love to rub their finger in. So, Nazi cliché, bullshit and offending. Germans casually wear Dirndls and Lederhosen. Maybe deep in Bavaria, there are still Germans wearing Dirndls and Lederhosen as their normal kind of clothes, or some of them at least at formal occasions. But apart from them, this cliché is complete rubbish. I mean, I like Dirndls, they are cute and traditional, and I actually own one myself. But this is not how I dress up every day for school or work. I have mine to wear to the Oktoberfest, but that's like one day in a year, so Germans are not funny. Saw that? Bullshit. Well, I guess that this is not a proof that Germans can be fun, but my channel is, isn't it? Additionally, to generalize the humor of a whole culture is just not working. Of course, there are Germans that never laugh and have grim faces all the day, but then there are other Germans laughing about stupid fart jokes, like me. What I can say is that many Germans, including me, love sarcasm and irony, and they like intelligent and subtle forms of humor. But that doesn't mean that we don't laugh at anything else. So of course we like to laugh, and we're actually a lot of fun. If you don't believe me, just pay a visit. This was my little list about German clichés and what I think about them. I'm pretty sure that many people will have a different opinion about this, so please leave a comment if you feel like that. Anyways, I hope that you had a lot of fun with the video. You feel well informed now and I could like debunk some really nasty clichés. I wish you all a very beautiful day and see you in the next video. Bye!
I like the rape. The rape is really funny. Many people don't like it, they are scared of the rape, but I think the rape is really cool. That was beautiful, Paula. Sit down again, thank you. What about Philip?